Okay, there's a couple of other things I want to add in our JavaScript part of this section of the course. And it's a pretty straightforward thing. I want some means of sending notifications or alerts to the user. So there's lots of ways of doing that. For example, I could, when I submit this, if there is no availability, I could send the request to my application, written in Go, process the request, determine that there's no application, and send the information back, reload this page, and then display the message here. I could do that. Or I could, if somebody did something wrong, I could send the request to the server, process it, discover there's an error, send it back, rebuild the whole page. There's lots of times when I want to display information, but sometimes I don't really want to put it here and have the page shift down. There might be no screen real estate to put the information that I want. So I want a really non-intrusive method of sending notifications, either success notifications or warnings or errors or whatever it may be, to the user. And there's a really nice package called Notie, and this is the address right here. Again, it's on GitHub. It's a straightforward package, it's really easy to work with, and it gives notifications. And I give you kind of a preview here. So I'm actually going to find the online demo. There's one right there. So I'll go over here, and here's the page. And I'll say, show me what a Notie alert that looks like a success. Something worked the way you wanted it to. So I'll click on this button, and it appears at the top of the screen. Right? It's a little big. I might make it smaller later. Here's a warning, and they stuck some HTML in there. And here's an error. That looks helpful. All right, how do I use this? Well, I'll scroll down here, and installation shows me that, again, I can pull this information off of a CDN, so I'll copy that, and I will go back to my HTML for my page, and I'll paste it in right at the top. There's my CSS. Again, just pulling it off of a CDN. And you also need, at the bottom, the JavaScript. So I'll go to the bottom of my page where I'm importing all of my JavaScript from CDNs and paste it in there. Okay, so I have that. And then it says, how do you actually use this? Again, I can use Node Package Manager, but we're not using that. We're not using ES6, we're using this. Here we are, available methods. So this says Notie alert. That gives me the actual syntax. I'm going to copy that. And I will go to the bottom of my page, and I'm going to create my own function. Function alert. So in JavaScript, that's how you write a function. Function alert. We can put any parameters in here, and I'll just paste in what I just copied. And I'll get rid of these comments in a moment. So the first option is type. Optional. Default equals 4. And you can use a number for a type, or you can use a string for a type. Well, the string's a lot more straightforward. So maybe I want to put an success as my type here. So I'll copy this, or delete this, and put in success, followed by a comma. Text, what do you want to say? Well, I don't know what I want to say in this function. This is function alert, so maybe I should put it up in here. Message as my first parameter, and I'll just use that as message. Stay, optional, default equals false, so it goes away after a few seconds. Time stays for a minimum of 1 second, but the default is 3. 3 seconds is fine, so I'll use the defaults for those. And position, optional, top or bottom, and I want it to be at the top, which is the default, so I can delete that. Okay, so there's a function, and is this really exactly what I want? Yeah, I think it is. But what kind of function is this? This is a success alert, so I'll call it a alert success, just so I know what kind of alert it is. And then if I want to, I can copy this and paste this, alert error, and type change the type to, what was my text for errors? Error. And then I can copy this again. You can see that this is probably not the best approach. Alert warning. And it's called warning. So I can come down here and do that. So I can have 3 alerts for 3 different kinds of, three functions for 3 different kinds of alerts. But that seems to me to be really inefficient. So why don't we do this instead? We'll call this function, and I can't actually call it alert because an alert's a built-in function, but I can call it What shall I call it? Notify. I'll call it notify. And then I can say the message is the first parameter and the type of message is the second parameter. So I could say message type as my second parameter, and then just copy that, replace what's in success, replace this string with my parameter, and then get rid of these two altogether because I don't need them anymore. That is way more efficient. So I now have a function. I actually want to test it out. How am I going to do that? Well, we have this document get element by D color button. So if I save this and go back over and look at my page again and reload this, we have this button that does this right now. And I said I was leaving this here because I was going to do things with it. And I am. So what I'm going to do is change that button from what it does right now, and I'll just delete that, and I'll simply pass it. I'll call the function I just created. I will say notify, and notify takes two parameters, my message, this is my message, and the type of message, and it's going to be a success message. So let's save that, come back here, reload this page, and now when I click this, because I've changed what the listener does, it calls a function I've defined, I should get a Notie alert. And I do. Okay. Now what if we change the type to error? Oops. Save that. Reload the page. There's my error message. Perfect. Well, that is going to be incredibly useful for us. And we may as well try the warning one as well. So warning. Reload. And there's my warning. So that's going to be useful for us to actually notify our users about success events, about errors that have taken place, just to give them a warning, whatever it may be. I don't know how I'm going to use it yet, but I know that it's going to be a useful thing to do. Now, the last thing I want to mention is that if you actually go to the documentation again, they give you an example here. So you can say override the styles for the Notie container. And we haven't talked a lot about CSS, and we will in a later section. But right now, let's just see what we can do with that. So if I go back up to my top of my page, I have already some CSS in here, and I'm not using red text anymore, so I can get rid of that. And I'll just paste in Notie container, and it says box shadow none. Well, let's see what it looks like. So before I reload the page, let's have a look at it. It has a little shadow right there. It might be difficult to see, but it does. Now if I reload the page, that shadow is gone. So I do have control over the way that this message is displayed, and that's good. I'm not going to do that right now. We'll maybe leave that for the CSS section of the course. But now we have a great way of notifying people in a way that's not too intrusive. And in the next section, we'll look at a way of notifying people of things that is a little intrusive. And also, we'll figure out how to use that. What we're going to do is display a modal dialog. We'll figure out how to use that on these parts, this part of the site right here. Check availability. If you recall, I said I don't want to take people to a new page to check availability for an individual room. Instead, I want to pop a dialog box, let them enter their start and end dates, and notify them right on this page. Let them book this room right from this page without leaving the page. And we'll get started on that in the next lecture.